beware of ransom notes that don't offer any evidence of a successful attack.
So, Mr. Singer, seems like you've got a story for us about yet another ransom scheme on the internet, but this time targeting websites.
Yes, this attack is using what has become very familiar, this notion that you need to pay a ransom in order to get your data back. In this case, it doesn't matter what software you're running, doesn't matter where you're hosted, what ports are open, because it's really just an attempt by extortionists to give you a believable message asking you to deposit Bitcoins into their wallet. So I thought it was good to just get the word out in case there are people receiving these notes. Comes in an email letting you know that they're at least reporting to you that they have found a vulnerability on your website, they've exploited it, they have accessed your database, and they have copied your database to an offshore site, and now they're going to reach out to all of your clients and partners because they were able to find that information in the database. They're going to let them know that they've hacked you. They're also going to use search engine optimization tools to remove you from the top search list. So it's basically a pretty good threat that they're going to take your small business, your website-dependent business off the map unless you pay quickly. They give you a few days to pay the ransom. What I thought was interesting is, if you were the recipient of this, I guess the first thing you'd ask is, how would I know whether these actors have really done anything to my site at all? And, obviously in the cybersecurity, world, we do vulnerability tests, we search for weaknesses, we test against them. And if you were infected with some type of malware that's destructive, that's going to ask for ransom, usually something you're using, would have something that doesn't look right, and you would get a message of some kind that would pop up telling you that you have this much time, contact us here, maybe even a little countdown timer telling you how much time you have left. But in this case, the attack simply is just sending you a note telling you that they've compromised your site, they've copied your database, and they need for you to pay them. The other thing I thought was interesting in the report by the security firm WebARX, who put this out, is they said it was a well-written ransom note, which I think they're saying that people are more likely to fall for if it's well-written. For me personally, I read through it, and it was maybe a little too well-written. It said, thusly damaging your reputation. And I usually would not use thusly in a sentence like that. Their closing statement I did also find interesting. It said there is no countermeasure. So striking that fear and trying to lead them to actually making the payment.
It's been helped, but you say there is no countermeasure, and that's kind of like the when on a multiple choice test, when you get the always or never choice, you never choose.
Avoid those
always
responses.
Choose something else. And this is there is no attack that has no countermeasure. I think it's also kind of interesting in this that the in any this is an oxymoron. Any reputable attack, they're going to be able to provide. They're going to want to provide evidence that they are actually a credible attack, because obviously, this sort of thing is not going to be very convincing for folks. I think the trick here is that perhaps that gray area, that is, they provide some evidence, but it's not compelling evidence. So for example, perhaps they argue that they're going to, they've hacked your website and extracted your database, and they provide you a piece of information that perhaps is accessible from that website, but
sensitive?
Is it really based on an attack or something? And so, did they really demonstrate that there was volume? Maybe they were able to, pull a few pieces of information out and, create a more convincing story. So I would be actually very skeptical unless they provide some compelling evidence.
We've seen that tactic, right, too. We say, here's a dribble of what I've stolen from you. And you look and think, well, is that something you could have got anywhere else? Is it publicly available, or is there some other way they could have gotten to that information? Yeah, great point. And these actors weren't providing any of that, any real detail, just your domain name, basically saying that we got your stuff.
I remember there was a DDoS scam a couple years back when Lizard Squad was still a big name. That sent an email out saying that we are Lizard Squad and here's an article about us and we're going to DDoS your site. And the only evidence they provided was that there was an article that Lizard Squad had attacked somebody else, but not like that they were actually Lizard Squad. And that was actually kind of popular for a while. This feels a lot like that to me.
So, there are all kinds of marketing scams that are out there. This is an example of marketing scams by scammers. And, it's certainly not surprising. And, I'm pretty convinced that you can pretty much sell just about anything on the internet if you have a good marketing campaign. It's a little bit unfortunate, but the audience is so broad that these kinds of things can be, and this is really trying to play on fear, uncertainty, and doubt to, try to make somebody nervous about a particular situation and react perhaps irrationally.
And this is illegal, and they should get caught. But people need to be aware that there's this kind of stuff going on, and that there are vulnerabilities on websites, and there are really ransomware attacks. But just the fact that they exist doesn't mean they happen to you without any evidence or proof. And it's always good to get to refer a case like this to some people who are cybersecurity professionals and have them do some analysis.
Yeah, very good point, because I think likely you're pointing out that the letter was crafted rather well, and that has probably come through iterations and determining how they can better craft the message to convince folks to actually react to them, sound more professional. There are probably numerous other examples. So long as folks are reporting to law enforcement, for example, there may be a number of examples that could be compared to determine how credible the case is. And, our speculation or our expectation here is that this is not a credible claim. And, to be able to merge that with others that have seen similar types of letters would be able to help solidify that, gain more confidence in the decision. But also one other thing I'll mention here is that, there are cyber insurance companies that obviously they're underwriting organizations to help protect them from cyber attacks. And many times their attacks like this are extortion attacks where they would have developed a decent amount of experience or exposure to cases like this and would be able to make good judgments about what is credible versus not.
So if you have a policy, they're going to put somebody on it and they're going to investigate and find out if there's anything to it. Yep, good point.
And if you don't have a policy, you may want to consider looking at it.